Oh no, we'll sit here. You will be in front. Me, I'm not important. No, but it's better to put in the center super guests.
Okay. Tell me when it starts, or it's already started on. Good evening to all. Thank you for being here tonight. We have a offline and online event tonight with the French Chamber of Commerce. We are here in the Hyatt Hotel. We are here with two deputy ministers of Ukraine. I will thank particularly Taras Vysotsky, first Deputy Minister of Agriculture, and Yuri Vaskov, Deputy Minister of Infrastructure, for being with us tonight. The presentation tonight is going to be moderated by Laurent Dupuche. Thanks to all of you. The Ambassador of France, Etienne de Poncin, was or is going to join us a bit later on. So thank you very much. I take the opportunity to thank the French companies present here today, and more generally all the French companies that continue their activity economically in Ukraine, show resilience together with the Ukrainian people over the last year to continue and to support Ukraine as much as we can in all fields of economy where we are present, and France is present in many fields of the economy. Our economies are very close, Ukraine and France, in certain sectors in which we are present and quite well known. Infrastructure and agro are two of the main sectors also for France, where France is known internationally to be quite present. So we are very happy to be able to discuss with you. It's a very interesting discussion also for our members. And we really hope that there will be a lot of interaction with the participants today. At the Chamber, I take this opportunity because I have the floor to remind of a few events that are going to be upcoming. On the 13th of June, there is a conference organized with the ambassador about the Ukrainian economy, where we will discuss the situation, the political situation, the economical situation, and the relation between France and Ukraine. On the 30th of June, there will be an event organized in France with the association Under Kiev and the Ukrainian embassy. So it's a joint event, and we'll send you more information for you to enable you to participate in France to this event. On the 11th of July, we will organize the award of the business, or the Women Business Award, which we have been organizing for at least 5 years now, which is a very important event for the French Chamber of Commerce, because we are promoting women in business. We have been doing a lot and communicating a lot on this and on this event. This year has been a very successful year in this sense, because we, to give you a comparison, 2022 we received 150 candidates, and this year in 2023 we received 300 files from a young or not so young women business ladies. And finally, on the 14th of July, we'll organize a Bastille Day in Kiev, and we'll be happy to have all of you present and supporting us in this event. So, without further ado, I will pass the floor maybe first to Etienne de Poncin, maybe before we start our conference, to give us a few insights and say a few words to our audience. Thank you very much to all.
Thank you, Bertrand. Thank you. I have not a lot to say, except that I am just arriving from Kramatorsk, which is not a common trip from Kiev to Kramatorsk. I went through quite a long journey to Dnipro, Kharkiv, Izium, Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, and then back today. I think it was useful to go outside Kiev to demonstrate, to flag out our support and to the Ukrainian people, including in the area where the war is very present. I was very impressed by what I've seen in Kramatorsk and Slavyansk and Izium in particular. It's clear that the situation is very difficult. But anyway, I'm back to work and very happy to open this workshop. I want really to thank the French business community, because they have done an amazing job being present during all the 440 something days of war, and alongside with the embassy, I think France has been very a reliable partner in keeping all its instruments in Ukraine and all its efforts to support the country. The embassy remained, as you may know, opened in Lviv, and then we were back in Kiev, the 13th of Kiev. The French school also has reopened among the very first, and is still open, the French Lycéenne de Kiev. And the Chamber of Commerce, the CCEFU, also has reopened among the very first. And the French companies have been very resilient and have stayed in Ukraine. So this is really an honor for me to be here and to salute the good work of the French business community in Ukraine, alongside and working side by side with our Ukrainian friends. So all the best for this. I've not a lot to add on the substance, but just for the broad context, I just want to say those few words of support and of appreciation of the work done by the French business community in Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your words. Thank you, Bertrand, also for your introduction. Dear Mr. Ministers, dear Taras and Yuri, thank you for your presence tonight, together with, this afternoon, I would say, together with our members. Today, and in the French-Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, we decided to discuss about the economic resilience of Ukraine, and with a specific focus with our dear guests, agriculture and logistic. Very interpenetrated, I would say. We'll try to address different topics. I will try to list the different topics, and I will be a kind of a guide for you, for all of us, to try to navigate around those different questions we may have, especially nowadays. We all know that apart from the front line, apart from the fantastic job from the Ukrainian Armed Forces, the economic front is very important. And it's one of the reasons, not the only one, but one of the reasons why we are fighting also. And as Mr. Ambassador said, all the economic actors in Ukraine try to resist from day one. And I would say that they are really leading by example worldwide when we see how all the economic actors try to readapt totally, to think differently out of the box, to relocate, to find solutions. It's not a question of following any kind of procedures, and it's a banker who says this, but it's finding solutions and so on. It's quite impressive. So regarding more specifically agriculture and logistics, the different topics we'd like to discuss today with you, and is around also an exchange around this Ukrainian agro-sector, which is first very important for the country, but we know very important for the world, because it's part of the world chain. how they continue to work and to export. Of course, we'll discuss, the time frame is good, about the grain corridor. We had some good news recently. We'll discuss also about the EU integrations. I know that there are some topics about this. It could be a question of norms. It could be a question of access. Also, maybe we see that logistic is critical, in fact. It's critical nowadays because it was the first questions when this part of the war started, how to continue to export. And so we will discuss about the different logistics channels. We'll try to see what was achieved, which is quite amazing, and what we still need to do. And maybe after we can extend, if we have enough time, we can extend a little bit regarding the logistic and the export, maybe on other things. We will see how it works. So I will try to launch the first questions to our dear guest, and please let's try to be very, very interactive. We have the chance to be in a nice place. It's quite cozy, and we have the opportunity to have tonight our two distinguished guests. So just to launch the discussions, maybe to you, Taras, and after we will ask, of course, Yuri to react, and maybe. Can you draft out a little bit where do we stand in terms of agri-sector and what are the key solutions? Of course, we know what happened recently, but it's important maybe to have a pause to see what we've done and what are the main challenges today. In fact.
Good evening or good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation and the possibility to discuss. First of all, of course, we are thankful for all the French businesses which continue working in agriculture. There are a lot of them, and they have been working, and we are sure that they will keep doing so. When we look at the agriculture, 1 year after the full-scale war started, so first, and which is very linked with logistics, we have that Ukrainian agriculture keeps being absolutely export-oriented, because we had the reduction of production in 2022 comparing to the record year of 2021. We still will have in volumes some reduction up to 10% in this year, but despite all of these figures and not very big domestic market, it's export-oriented. It's very important to keep in mind because it depends on efficient logistics, and another issue, it depends on the market access. It has been always very important, and when you look at the news of the last weeks, we understand that it's even more crucial important. But for us, positive news are that the European Parliament supported the prolongation of FTA with European Union for at least 1 more year without tariffs, and from the 5th of June for 1 more year. It's very crucial. We are still waiting for the final voting next week of European Council, but hope it's going to be supported, because due to some challenges in Black Sea, we are now even more export-oriented towards the direction of European Union as a consumer, but also as a transit hub. And when we look at the figures, that more than almost 60% of commodities go either to or through European Union of agricultural commodities, and usually it was 1/3. And it's important to save and be efficient in this direction. Another one is that Ukrainian agriculture has shown the possibility to quite quickly react to the challenges, and not only in changes of crop rotation, like increase of production of oil seeds and less of grains due to the volumes and cost of logistics, but also in another transforms. For example, even during the times of war, the export of seeds grown in Ukraine, not as a commodities, but seeds for sowing has increased, which is added value. The export of bioethanol, for example, which again some grain processing has increased. The export of sugar, some parts meats, milk products. So we show that the participants of agricultural market and main players keep developing and keep investing. Of course, not as they could without the war, but still do it. That's why it's this transforming keeps in place, and we are further attracting the foreign investors and internal investors to develop within the supply chain, not to look at the agriculture only as a crops and oilseeds production, but see it as animal products, some processed products, and other possibilities which can be. And it's not only the issue of change due to the problems with logistics, but it's also the issue of possibility to be profitable. All of these productions are in the way not as profitable as before the war, but still economically profitable. And one more issue which I would like to mention, which is some critical transformant, it is a possibility to even use more out of the current production and out of the waste or residuals we have. I mean the starts of increasement of biomethane production in Ukraine, which can be done out of the products which before were just like thrown away, like straw from corn of wheat or like animal production residuals. We already have the example of certified production and export from Ukraine, and it's also is going to be keep developing. It's was for very important because you mentioned the European integration. We look definitely that it is the only way, and to meet the COP26 or Green Deal and other requirements which are meant there, we have to start preparing right now, and such things can support to be ready faster or as soon as possible for the rules within the European Union.
Thank you, Taras. Yuri, may I ask you also to comment on the main challenges we had to face in logistics? We see that interaction is very important, is critical, and yeah.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for support from French business community, from the French government, personally to ambassador to our country during full-scale invasion. I would like to just to remind again that Ukraine has an export-oriented economy. During the traditional time, more than 60% of the cargoes were shipped through the deep sea ports. If we are talking about the grain, close to 75% were exported through deep sea, Black Sea ports. Unfortunately, after 24th of February, the shipping in the north part of the Black Sea were blocked by the Russians. Around 7 civil vessels were attacked at the beginning of the first few days of the war, and after this, the shipping was stopped. And it was a so-called challenge for the whole economy of Ukraine, because we understand that the volume of international trade directly influences to a level of our economy. And together with the business, together with all state bodies, we started to develop so-called alternative routes for our export, first of all, for the import of strategic goods. And if we will again return to the agriculture products, for the moment we have 3 logistic routes for the agriculture export. First, from the share, around 50% of the whole agriculture export was shipped through a so-called grain initiative, around 50%. around 25% were exported through western border by railway and by the trucks, and around 25% were exported through our Danube ports. Before the war, the share of Danube ports was around 1.5% in the total volume. Now the Danube ports is around 25% for grain and around 20% for all Ukraine economy. Of course, a lot of things were done in each direction. The Black Sea Grain Initiative is one hard story, which is still not finally efficiently work due to the Russians' behavior in Istanbul. Western border, a lot of projects started from the railway reconstruction, from the road infrastructure, new border crossing point opening, deregulation of the procedures, etc., etc. Unfortunately, some steps from our neighbor friends decreased the volumes. 1 month ago, Taras already said about this, but we hope that situation will be improved thanks to European Commission position. The Danube, this is another story. The dredging was done in order to increase the volumes of the vessels, the size of the vessels for Ukrainian part of the Danube. The new terminals started, the new investment projects has been realized and under construction, etc., etc. So it was a common work with the business, with the government, with the local authorities, which allowed to us to be close to the volume of export to the traditional year, close. We still have a decrease, but we are still developing all these routes. So we hope that, of course, Black Sea Grain Initiative will not only work for 3 ports. We would like to increase for the ports of Mykolaiv region. It is still not proved, unfortunately, but we are working on this direction. And again, we understand that the economical fighting is also very important.
Yeah. Thank you for this. And as you mentioned, and when we listen to your 2 preliminary speech, in fact, we see that in a super short period of time, too long for the war, unfortunately, but in 400 days, I would say, 400 and more days, we managed to accelerate in a very fast way to open new channels, because we had to open new channels, which will remain a permanent one, I guess. It's maybe for other product also. And also to accelerate the change of agri-production, accelerate agri-transformation also, because we see that it's more and more important. So it's really impressive to this super fast reaction in a super short period of time. So congratulations to all of you, even though we all know that it's really critical. Please, if you have at any time any questions you would like to raise, please feel free, because it should be a conversation. And interrupt me and say, okay. We mentioned the grain corridor. We mentioned our neighbors. They start a little bit to wanted to stop, not to postpone, to allow transit, but not destination of export and so on. What's your view? What's your view on this? EU Commission has a certain positions. Try to put how we say in France, to put the church in the middle of the village, to realign everybody. What's your view? It's critical. It's a risk.
So first of all, it's very important to look at the medium term and really to prolong for 1 more year this free trade agreement. It should happen from the 5th of June. Then second, to do our best to make these temporary measures, which so far have been introduced till 5th of June, really temporary measures. So without any prolongation, because 1 month already has passed, and we have like 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks is the 5th of June. So it's crucial. If and we are doing and with European Commission and other communication best to make it happen, of course, then still have created damages, direct damages anyway, but it provides a horizon for farmers, for producers to move on. Because now, last year at this point, we had twice bigger the stock harvest than this year, due to all the efficient actions before the April. Most of the last year and 2021 harvests have been transported. So once again, it's still bad case, negative case, but very important that it ends on the 5th of June and then on. When we start from end of June, collecting new harvest and so on. So we are working and looking at it from the perspectives to do our best to finalize this story on the 5th of June and not to let it happen again. To work together, to find compromise, but not such quite sudden and interruption and urgent ones over one night.
Thank you, Taras, for this. Yuri, it has an impact on your plan in terms of logistics. This.
Of course, I think half of the volume which was previously exported through the western border was decreased.
Yes.
Half, it's around close to 800,000 tons per month, something like that.
So it's a big impact. So. Dear colleagues, any questions at this stage? No? Don't be shy. Huh? We were discussing about different topics. Okay, but do not hesitate. Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, both of you. You are talking about the Black Sea Initiative. I mean, do you think that China has really an interest to maintain the corridor, the Black Sea Initiative? It's really in their interest. And if China has a word in this conversation, let's say.
We saw the information about the corridor and their support when they announced their so-called peaceful plan. It was mentioned about Black Sea Grain Initiative. It was just one case because there are some particular questions and particular interests of the China in Ukraine. First, there is one of the biggest grain terminals in Ukraine of a China company, Kovka, located in Mykolaiv, which is blocked, and we didn't feel a strong support in public statements, minimum, for renewal shipment from Mykolaiv from our China partners. And this is one particular thing, and another particular case that there are blocked vessels origin from China, which also still are blocking in the ports. And like, for example, with the Turkish vessels, the Turkish government applied to receive some guarantees from the Russian and sent it to Ukrainian in order to receive permission for departure. From China side, we didn't receive the same steps.
Thank you. Another question on this topic?
It will be a question for Taras. Do you understand the reason why Polish farmers, for example, strike so many times and are not happy at all with the Ukrainian grain coming to Poland? Why so many strike? You know, why they are not so happy? What do you understand? Do you understand what is the problem exactly in Poland because of the grain from Ukraine? Because we've got, let's say, I will speak like this as a Polish farmer, we've got some difficulties. So do you understand that your neighbors, which were supposed to be very fair with you, are not actually so fair?
First of all, of course, it was this spring is unusual in terms of price tendencies, because usually even when you look at the market in year, which for grain starts from July until June, usually spring is the time of, if not increase, but at least of high prices. And this spring was the time of prices decrease, but it was not created by the Ukrainian grain. It was smoke, or we can't say 100% created by the Ukrainian grain. It's lots of things happening in the world, including some increasement of yield in Latin America and in others, and general trend of decrease of different kinds of raw commodities and so on. So, of course, it's unpleasant, but I think for the French farmers, not only French-Ukrainian farmers, but French farmers in France, it was also not very unpleasant to have decrease in prices than you counted. But it seems that the Ukrainian grain, and on the other way, it was the first period in the history that such volumes of Ukrainian grains came in this period. Because last spring, still there were not some volumes, such volumes. It was starting. It was in March we had, as far as I remember, 330,000 agricultural commodities export in general, and then 1 million in April. So it wasn't such effect. And it was unpredictable, and no one could forecast the possible results, and we see what is the result. That Ukrainian grain really came. The Polish farmers, most of his grain didn't sell by different reasons before, and in the end, of course, tried to do the most for price increasement. But so it's not. We're not talking about Polish farmers and their behavior. Each business has the right to protect its interests. It's more about the overall way of decision making. We are saying that the decisions should be made on the EU level, as we access in the European Union, and all the 28 members have the same rules, and only after negotiations. There are lots of instruments, but negotiations, providing arguments in other ways. So it's more about the overall decision making in trade regulation, which we don't agree with, and that's why we are focusing and emphasizing on the level of European Commission, first of all, that the rules should be predictable. On the other way, we have also received, and Polish government received, a lot of complaints about other types of businesses inside of Poland which were also damaged by it. Processors, for example, meat producers, milk processors and others. Because, and it's also, they had benefits from the trade with Ukraine. That's why, first of all, for us, it's important not to have such cases in the future, especially after the 5th of June. And the decision are made only after some negotiation with some arguments and clear predictable, or at least in advance predictable results. But as we understand that the elections periods make some not very rational things, but we still believe that it must not become the common practice, first of all on the European level, for the future and for after the 5th of June as well.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity to be with you. So, Taras, I just would like you make a comments about this, I would like to go a bit deeply to export arms situation. As you know, B2D represent big French seeds association and as well other, I would say, international seed as well. So in summary, we produce a lot of seeds this year. Multiplication means for EU direction, including Poland, some I believe Bulgaria, Romania. So all those also 5 countries which are, we have a ban today until the 5th of June. Honestly, it was absolutely unexpectedly for us, because even we are talking about not commodity and talking about seeds, but the code, the 005, is also correspond to the seeds. So it's not seeds produced just like this without direction. So it's already coordinated in the head offices in the EU. So they already that prepared seed for the, I would say, the next business plan. It should be settled. So I believe personally it's probably some technical mistake for this ban for the seeds. So Taras, you may comments, you may know a bit more as for today. If it's possible, please can you clarify a bit? Thank you.
We talked about this issue. The reality is that the customs system hasn't been ready for such decision, just because actually none of us has been ready for such decision overnight. And technically, like by logic, they agree the seed should come, but technically can't implement it because all of them have, not all, the European Union has to vote some changes to the tariff code, and we as well, and add some 2 additional numbers at the end and so on. But once again, it would take longer than the 5th of June, and all agreed that it should be short-term nightmare, so, and it's not going to happen after, hopefully. But so far, is the only practical, mechanical reason is to anyway create additional subcode, but it should be voted at normal tax for seeds to move on. But all of them are not against. At least they proved on the negotiations that the governments of all of these 5 countries, they don't mind, not against of seeds importing for their use from Ukraine.
Okay, thank you. Just make a comment. It's also benefit not only for those farms who produce seeds locally, but also for European farms, because they will get, I guess, so I believe, high quality of the seeds and quite, I would say, reasonable price, because that's what has happened during the last 2 years. So that's the issue. Thank you, Taras. Okay.
Thank you. But keep it. Any other question from the audience on this topic? No. Maybe as we are talking about agri, about logistic, we've seen the interactions, very important interactions. Maybe Yuri, a question for you now. What would be your main priorities in terms of adapting all the channels for the exporters, I would say? What would you be your main difficulties, challenges? We've seen that we manage to open new roads, quote unquote, with new channels. How to develop them, maybe to make them sustainable?
If we're talking about export, first of all, according to the share in the total volume, of course, we need to prove and to develop Black Sea Grain Initiative to not only to prolong it, because it's still not fully prolonged, it's just partly unblocked by the Russian. It's a more correct phrase. But we need to increase for the other ports. We need to increase to other goods. We need to open the free civil shipping in the Black Sea, because this is the right of Ukraine. This is the right of foreign ship owners, and this is our main goal: is to renew the shipping, because it will immediately bring a huge positive effect for the whole economy, not only for agriculture, but for the steel, iron ore, and other types of carriage. And in parallel, of course, to develop roads, railway, some deregulation in bureaucracy for the export operations, and to develop 10 new ports and construct new terminals. As I said, now 10 terminals are under construction in the Danube. If we will return to the Black Sea Grain Initiative, this is a hard work. This is because it's not, we have no direct communication, it is clear, with the Russians. This is Quad format. We signed an agreement with UN, with our Turkish partners, and so we are dealing through them. And the negotiations are still in force and will continue next week. So we will see.
Thank you, Yuri. Still no questions on this topic. On the maybe Taras, a question for you on how to. You've discussed. You've told us at the beginning of your intervention that we manage, the agri-producer managed to change their production. We know that they change also to add value to their productions. It's a long-term process, but we are talking more about agro-industry. How to, and it has an impact on sort of the way we can transport the goods. How can we accelerate this movement, which is a long-term movement? What's your request? How do you push all the economic actors to do this, in fact?
We see a few directions which are going to support in it. That's one of them is access, market access. So this, of course, the prolongation of FTA with EU, but also keep the same FTA with other important markets. But also we are working on opening of new markets in terms of some phytosanitary or veterinary documentation normatives to be in line. So really to create the possibility. Second is, so when you look there, it should be, because it's private business which is going to invest, national and foreign, it should be in the end economically interesting. Really to create it, there should be this market access on the level of, how to say, bureaucracy, that it's open. Second, it's again still depending on logistics, because for example, some apple juice with Black Sea and apple juice transformation through Romania, Constance and others can be different economies. So anyway, it's important to return to the international logistic costs, so to compete on the same tariffs as others have producers. Third, which is still to provide some taxes benefits. As now it's perhaps less discussed because lots of challenges, but we have to remember that the program which allows 5 years income tax exclusion, VAT tax exclusion for the import of technologies and equipment, also this free state-owned lands. We've seen this investment support, and Ukraine Invest Office they are available and they can be used. So that's again, in the end, support the on final cost of production issues. And also, where it's possible, some direct state support. Of course, at the current times, our budget doesn't have the possibility for big compensation, but at least for some small and medium businesses, we have programs where the investor can receive the compensation up to 70% of costs in investing in these processing facilities. So these directions should widen, and we are focused on creating such incentives. First of all, that it's becoming interesting at our conditions to produce the products and receive profits of them on the added value of processed products.
Thank you, Taras. Incentive, okay. You talked about norms. To question any financing issues and any timing issues between the development of this more value added and the production of agri and logistic, maybe?
So what can be calculated even now? It's developing. As I said, if you look at example case of bioethanol or sugar or even some processed cereals, it's even now with the access to European Union market calculations works. So we don't put that like our overall goal is to reach the level of 25-30% of processing of the primary commodities produced in 10 years. So far it's 8-10%. So it's impossible to process everything. That's anyway, it's possible. But we're moving in such things, and we think that it can be achieved. Also, one more direction is horticulture, different kinds of feed, which still also supported by the state, by grants, and also it can be quite competitive in the fresh and frozen segment, first of all on European Union market. But we are coming back that there should be granted long-term undiscussable market access. Without it, you can't plan for a long time.
For sure, you need market clients. If not, it doesn't work. Any questions? No, I continue. One of the very important topics, and touching both of you, but all the development of the Ukrainian economy is everything around sustainability, green. We all know that we will have, even though it's difficult nowadays to speak about this, we should increase awareness about ESG, because we know that if we want to be able to build something, to rebuild something, to use international fundings, to use any kind of fundings, we will need to be sustainable. We were mentioning at the beginning the green biomethane or green energy. What's your feedback, both of you, on your domain about sustainability, green? Because for sure it's a rising concern.
I can begin. In terms of agriculture, one, as you mentioned, use the waste and residuals to create green bioenergy. First of all, biomethane. Second, so far, when you look, for example, at the greenhouse gas emissions, due to the war and decrease in fertilizer and other uses, actually, just at the current position, Ukrainian agriculture is carbon emission positive. I mean, it's not letting more than consumes. But it was by the war, because we have 25% of fertilizer only used. But so far, it's not so critical. We have the cattle decrease and others. Comparing with the European Union countries, in greenhouse gas emissions, we have the better starting position in agriculture. Another one is related with sustainability. Is irrigation. I mean that we are planning to rebuild the current irrigation from these open channels and waste of water to pipelines and efficient use, which is also one of the elements of sustainability. So the projects which are under development now are focused not only just on rebuilding as the same style, but really to make them maximum efficient with respect to energy consumption and water waste. So we keep all of these things in mind, and the first one, which has been unfortunately created by the war, is soil pollution, because still it's also an issue of sustainability. First of all, of course, the main priority is to demine as soon as possible, but it will take lots of time and resources. And after it, to make this whole-scale soil monitor analysis, and also, when necessary, we have to introduce together with the partners and international organizations, but necessary measures to clean the soil from the residuals of the war. It's a challenge. It has been created, but in overall, we have to tackle it and care about it to meet all of these sustainable goals.
I can add just, of course, we are implementing the same standards if we are talking about the renewal, about the construction. But if we will return to logistic, so before the war, we started the serious reform of the internal carriage inside the country in order to move the goods from the trucks to the internal waterways. The special law was adopted by the parliament, and it started to work since 1st of January 2022. The government proved the stable budget for the internal waterways development, for the dredging, for the locks reconstruction. It was a strategy for construction additional locks to start navigation through other rivers, not only through Dnipro. But unfortunately, due to the war and due to the occupation of Kakhovka region, now it's impossible almost to use Dnieper River and to improve this environmental issue. But again, we are sure that very soon we will receive again possibility to use the Dnieper and will again return to this program.
Because in agri, in logistic, we see you mentioned both demining. Even for, you mentioned civil usage of the Black Sea, so you have a question of mine also. I understand. It's a huge subject. Huh? It's what's your opinion on this? Yeah. How can we?
Demining is a very serious question. It's very serious and difficult for the sea, but it's also very difficult for the river. And we started demining by our means on some part of the Dnieper River already 1 week ago. But we understand that the main area, the most danger area, this is Kherson area. It's unknown number of the mines, rockets, etc., which is in the river. And we are dealing with our partners, by the way, with some French companies as well, and hope for support for this experience, for special equipment, because we understand that in order to renew the navigation, it's necessary to make this huge work in the future.
On this, if I may add a point of information regarding the demining, and in particular the demining under the water. We have noticed that it's a high priority for Ukraine. That's very clear. It has been said, repeated several times by Prime Minister Shmyhal in particular, because he has focused on this. And it's on the very point of demining in water. I am pleased to let you know that we have sent French trainers who are among the best in the world in that niche, if I can say that. And we have held a training session in Romny, if I'm not mistaken, in the center of Ukraine, to train your specialists in that domain, which is key. You have mentioned the exports, and that's very clear. And there will be a second session of training, I think, in France in the coming weeks. So we are on that sector. I mean, France is very active in this specialized demining, which is key for you. So you can be reassured in that, and I'm pretty sure that if it goes that it went for other trainings that we have organized, your specialists will learn very rapidly, and in a few weeks they will be as good as the French are in that sector.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Any reaction from the audience? No questions? Yes, stand up here, please. Do not hesitate.
Okay. Vyacheslav Bezruk. Recently, President Erdogan announced opening Mykolaiv and Olivia ports for Turkish ships. how Ukraine or international community is going to ensure security of ships coming to this area, and how it will be going overall.
President Erdogan said about evacuation of blocked vessels in the Mykolaiv region ports. It's not a decision about possibility to enter a new one, unfortunately. It's only about evacuation.
The minister, you're talking about the export and to create new roads. We are, I mean, at the French embassy, we support the contract, especially with Zastal and UZ, and there is some discussion as well from new tracks, and as well we follow the project with Alstom. You're talking about logistic. Are you still looking for bridges and to develop as well the road networks? I mean, to develop the roads as well.
Yes, of course. UZ they has their strategical plan. There are development of all TNT corridors and other constructions, as bridge, as new lines in the almost all regions. First of all, close to the European border. This is it's necessary to arrange a separate meeting in order to show and to present all their plans. And I think that current management will do it soon regarding their plans for the next few years. But again, of course, there are emergency works, which is necessary to do in prior due to the some bridge destroyed by the war, etc., etc.
May I ask you maybe a not so easy question, a little bit tricky. You have in front of you a representative of the French business community. What would you like to ask them to do more today for you?
That's first of all, we are thankful for keep operating. Then, of course, to invest more, because we are talking about economic front today. So, not military one. Of course, for us the main thing is victory. But except the military things, the best that can do all the French representatives to keep investing and keep operating in Ukraine. Yes.
Thank you. Yuri, you have a special request?
So
I will ask them the same question, so don't worry.
We are negotiating, we are working with a few worldwide French companies in logistics. This is Louis Dreyfus, CMA, CGM, and thanks to the decision of the management, of the staff of these companies, they are active during this period. So just this is a good example to other business. So just take the same level, and from our side we will do all our best in order to increase our logistic capabilities, because it brings to you possibility to export more, to carry more, and to support your staff. It's very important for us, because citizens of Ukraine, and so just do all your things like you did during first year of the war.
So on their behalf, be sure that we will continue. Dear friends, do you have a special request? You know that it's an opportunity. We have two eminent ministers on two important topics, agri and logistic. We know that the country, Ukraine, is in the process of trying to simplify something, sometimes the regulations, to harmonize, to make it easier for business and so on. Do you see any kind of a specific headaches, challengings, as you are operator, you are economic actors? Do you see some specific things you would like to bring to the attention of our two friends tonight? Because it's important also for the evolution of the regulations in the country, and I know that the government is working on it also. So, but you can feed them a little bit with different ideas if you want.
Just one comment that I think the companies can prove that when we are now analyzing under this harmonization process of accessions and regulations in the European Union and the current regulation in Ukraine, I would say that not a few, but a lot of regulation should be added according to the European Union rules. So I would like to say that in this respect, not we're talking about other some directions, but regulation and rules. So far, the starting point is not so tough. Yes, that it can appear after the access to European Union.
Yes.
To have a chance that we all together here. So what I would like to add, so that the relation with the Ministry of APK, so I think I would say this not because of to say something good, but really it's one of the best probably since I remember, honestly. It's always open, always accessible. Yes, sometimes we have some different point of view, I would say a lot of discussion, but it's really ongoing. So I would like to say this. It's really ongoing, as Taras mentioned, so there was a lot of issue. We try to do really the best to simplify the business. And I tell you, it's more than probably 10 regulation only in seeds business. Just during the last year, it was adopted, it was regulated, and it was proved. So we are really on the good way of, I would say, communication and cooperation. So it's ongoing. I would like to say personally thanks to Taras Vysotsky as well, to Ministry. So they are always, again, that's really good relation. So I believe that my colleagues so can really confirm it. Thank you.
That's, this case shows we are in all the possible areas and fields where we can recognize, for example, registration or other things already done in EU, we are going to do it. So like in seeds, we have the seeds registered in European Union will not have to go the same procedure in EU. And we are planning to do the same in agricultural machinery, in pesticides and others, to save the time for inputs and of additional procedures for us. If it is already registered and proved in European Union, it's already the quality proven, and it should be just fly out and feeds different kinds to Ukrainian market. Yes.
Thank you, Taras. Maybe just to finalize this very interesting debate, any last questions before I had the opportunity to super thank our guests and maybe to give them the last words to us. Any questions? No? Everything was very clear. I understand that the cooperation is super efficient and the achievements are great, and hopefully it will continue like this. Maybe last word. First of all, many thanks to both of you for your time, your dedications. It's really impressive for us as your partners to see how this team, this venture all together can work for the full benefit of Ukraine. We stand by you. We do all the things we can to support you. Thanks a lot. If you want, maybe last words for you.
Just you ask what to ask. Also French financing and banking system has lots of possibilities. So please, you're welcome to finance French investors, Ukrainian or any of the investors as much as possible in Ukrainian economy and agriculture.
Our pleasure for the French bank, our pleasure.
From our side, I would like also to invite to invest to the port infrastructure, even to the ports which are not fully opened now. We renew concessions, we renew some public-private partnership projects. This is a good time for investments, because after our victory, we expect the growth, and will be fast, of course. So please be active, and thanks for your support again.
Thanks again. Maybe a big applause for our guests.